Well, hello and welcome. It's been a long time since I've done a rundown of my boots and ranked them from my favorite to my least favorite. Actually, we're gonna switch that around. We're gonna go from my least favorite to my favorite. And you may be saying to yourself, Carl, what the hell? Like, you only have a dozen boots? And actually, yeah, I got rid of a ton of them, gave a lot of them away, sold many of them. The other thing that I'm doing on this version of this rundown is I'm not gonna include any of the collaboration boots that I've done. You know, I do kind of think that maybe in a way that's just a little bit, it kind of tilts the scales, and that's not what I want to do. I want to judge them based on merit and how much I actually like them. So I got all the boots that I have, excluding the collaborations that I've done, and I've put them here. And there's only a dozen. That's it. That's all I have. And you know, I've whittled down the collection a lot. I feel a lot better about it. And so let's get started. All right, we're gonna start with these. These are the Cordobes engineer boots in natural veg tan. And if you remember, this is the pair that I wore for a month straight to see how much they would age. And you can see the top here, the shaft, which hasn't seen much exposure to, you know, dirt, light, anything else, is almost a pink kind of tan color, and the bottom is solidly in the light brown. So that's how they age, and I thought it was a really beautiful way to show how that lovely leather tends to patina. It looks great. Now, the reason that these are so low on my list, I mean, you know, look, they may be the first ones I'm talking about, right? But they're still great, and there's a reason why I still have them. Number one, they're extremely lightweight, and this leather is nice and thin. So these make a wonderful boot to wear when it's a little bit warmer out. I think that color also lends itself to being good for the warmer weather, and everything is still solid about them. There is some refinement that I think they have to do on this pair, but I think that that's just something that comes with time, and they're off to a wonderful start. These are hand-welted boots. They are made to a very high standard, but there are some things, like I mentioned, with this heel stack here, you know, it's sort of kind of like started to spit out some sort of a maybe adhesive layer or something, which could be trimmed, not really a big deal. There's just a few things that I think that they are going to refine over time as they develop their skills and their, you know, what they're doing. It's a wonderful boot. I still recommend them, especially for that price. You are not gonna get into a pair of engineers for less than this, that's for sure. And that's a lot of engineer boot for the money. So I still think that they're a spectacular deal and very good boots. And a lot of people, they're gonna get a pair of these and they won't want another pair of engineers for the rest of their life. They're great. However, they still come in first, which is 12 or whatever. Next up is the Edmonds Odenwald. I have had these for a long time. Matter of fact, these are kind of the boots that started it all for me. And one of the reasons that I keep them is because of that patina. They've really aged nicely. The great thing about them though is they can be dressed up to kind of smart casual, but they can also be worn, you know, full on jeans and t-shirt kind of thing. And they've held up wonderfully. I have had them resold once before. Originally, these came with a leather sole. And then when I went to the Edmonds factory, they asked me if I wanted to try a new color in the day night that they had. And it was this green. I said, cool, I'm a sucker for green. So that's what we went with. And you know, it's a cool boot. They're a little 5-inch boot, simple, almost a chukka type of style to them. But to me, these were the ones that opened my mind to how great boots could be. I think I paid like $300 for these back in the day, which was a lot of money. And it was something that I was like, I'm not sure if I should do this, but I gotta tell you, I never look back. They have been great. I don't wear them as much as I used to, just because I have other boots that I like to wear, but every now and then I get these out because they're so well broken in and they're so comfortable right off the rip that, you know, I like to give them a try. All right, Duckfeet. Now this is a cool boot. What I like about these is that they are, they do everything that my LL Bean duck boots used to do, but they do them better. The only thing that I think these are lacking is a little bit of that water resistance. With the duck boots, you could really walk through basically anything because they had that vulcanized rubber around the bottom, so you could walk through slush and all that stuff. But these replaced those for everything. And a lot of times what I would do is leave them by the door, leave them sort of half laced like this, and then just slip them on and go about my day. And they're so comfortable, they're very capable, even with that sole. You see that sole, there's really not a whole lot of aggressive tread to it, but it's that crepe kind of material there, which is nice and spongy and actually very, very grippy. And I wore these things all the time. Now, they don't have the most locked in feel. That's okay. They also have that sort of Thurman last kind of thing, whatever they want to call it. More or less, it's to the shape of your foot. You know, your bigger toe is here, your smaller toe is there. And that's the way a foot is shaped, not like an almond. And these things are great. I love wearing them, and what can I say? They're actually also really affordable for what you're getting. I love these things. I can't wait to start wearing them when the weather gets colder. But before we go any further, I want to talk about this video's sponsor, and that is Knafs. Now, I've spoken at length about Knafs and how much I like them, and I've heard you know, everybody says, well, you know, they're great looking knives and everything like that, but I wish they were made in the USA. And thankfully, Knafs has actually come out with this, the Lulu, which is 100% made in the USA, down to the packaging and the sticker. This one right here is in micarta with raw magna cut. But I mean, look at this thing. Now, I'm up here in Montana. You might be able to tell that I'm not in my home state or my home studio. And I've been using this thing a lot. I mean, you know, I can wear it on my hip with this leather sheath, and I kind of feel like I belong here a little bit. Like, maybe nobody knows that I'm actually from Connecticut. But I am so proud to have Knafs as a sponsor. I love their products. I think they're doing such cool things. And I love the fact that everything's open source. They make it so that you can repair your stuff, make parts for your own knives. They have a sense of humor. Their YouTube channel, which has just started, is really great and funny, and you get to know the people behind it. And it's like, you know, I mean, I wish more companies had that, where there was a human element to them, and they weren't just some logo and, you know, whatever slapped on a website or on social media. Knafs has real people behind it, and this little thing right here has been so awesome. I'm actually kind of sad that we're coming to the end of our run with Knafs as a sponsor, because I could talk about them at length. They really have been fantastic. And I really suggest that you go and check them out. Even if you don't want a little fixed blade like this, which is actually great. We were cutting steak with it the other night. If you want one of their folders, they have several different sizes of folders. They have stuff like a poster that you can hang up on your wall that's like a dissection of a knife. They have all kinds of cool stuff there. Great company, great products, really been enjoying them. So thank you so much to Knafs for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to the countdown. Thank you so much, Knafs, for sponsoring this video. On we go, and that would be the Grant Stone. This is the Garrison, and this is done, I think they did this for a limited amount of time. I'm not sure that it's still available, but it's this really funky looking, almost kind of rough out kind of deal, and it's like, you know, it looks like nothing else. And when I wear these, everybody always comments on them. Grant Stone just make a wonderful boot. I think that when you're talking about value, Grant Stone is almost always at the top of the list. Their stitch density, the way they're making everything, the solid feel, just the build quality in general. Grant Stone is a wonderful company. And I think that most people, this is all the boot they're ever gonna need. I don't wear these that much, but these are kind of the boot that I'll wear, especially when I'm like a little bit more dressed up and I want something that's not too dressy. I like to have a simple kind of service boot, which is basically what this is, with a little tweak to it. That it works really well for that case, and everything about it is great. I mean, once you know your size, and now Grant Stone also has a lot of boots in wide sizes, you can just get a whole bunch of boots like that. And I used to have their diesel boots, which were awesome. I love those things, but I ended up giving those to my father-in-law, I think, and he now is getting a ton of wear out of them. And now I have this one here, and they've been wonderful. Grant Stone, I think everybody needs a pair of Grant Stones in their collection. All right, the Jim Green Razorback. Now, the Jim Green Razorback, this was the first pair that I ever got from Jim Green. If you ever saw my interview that I did with Gareth, we were talking about how this is kind of the older version of their Razorback. You know, it has the Razorback there, the embossing and everything, and it's just, I don't know, man. Something about these. One of the things that sort of, you know, sticks in my mind is that when I was building this area up here, these were the boots that I would wear, and they went through everything. I mean, I did everything from framing to electrical to HVAC, hanging sheetrock, painting, flooring, carpeting, tile, all that stuff in these boots. And, you know, I wanted to see how they fared up against all of those different things, and they were great. Now, the one thing about Jim Green that you kind of need to know, because some people are surprised by this, is they have a sort of lower, wider toe box in some of their models. One of the things that you maybe have noticed is that on the table, there weren't a pair of the Jim Green African Rangers. That is built on a different last, which is a little bit more narrow, a little more almond shaped toward the toe, and to me that just didn't work. I have a wide foot, and I always felt like it was kind of pushing on my small toe, and it was very uncomfortable. These, on the other hand, have plenty of room, and I found that they're pretty much good for everything. They're, you can hike in them, you can work in them, you can wear them casually. They just do everything well. And this was my first pair. Of course, we have our 719 boot that we're working on and hopefully will be released very soon. But this here was the one that started it all. And I still love Jim Green. I think they are a spectacular company. I don't ever see getting rid of these. I've had other Jim Green boots, but these right here hold a special place in my heart. Here are another pair that I don't think I've ever shown on the channel before, and this is a company called Limmer. Now, I got these because I wanted a shorter boot that would basically take the place of a sneaker. So when I was out doing stuff at the lake, and I didn't want to wear a sneaker because I do have a pair of sneakers that basically are relegated to walking the dog and at the gym, and that's it. I wanted something else that I could go trail walking with and basically do everything else. And that wouldn't look too goofy should I decide to wear shorts. This is, I believe, called the Hiker. And again, it's by Limmer. They're based out of New Hampshire. And they make some really great hiking boots. I hope to go back up there and get a pair of hiking boots at one point. But they did these, and I think it was sort of a one-off. I'm not sure that they still make them. They might. But these were great. And I say they were great, they are great. I wear them quite often, and I like that lace to toe kind of thing that they've done there. They just did a nice combination of things. One thing that's interesting, take a look at that toe cap. This is something that you'll see pretty typically on monkey boots or boots of that type, like when they lace way down to the toe. When they still want to put a toe cap on there, they'll do sort of this, what almost looks like a long wing type of thing that you would see on a dress boot as a toe cap. And I just think it looks cool. It sort of sets it off. My wife said that they look like bowling shoes, which I can almost kind of see, but they're really nice. Now, I will say that they didn't do a great job when it comes to some of the refinement. I wish that I had seen a little bit more attention to detail, especially in places. One of the trouble spots that I always see with brands is where the welt will eventually meet itself, and the way that they execute that says a lot about the company. They have done this in a very strong and very water-resistant way by actually making it overlap a little bit, but it doesn't really look all that finished, you know what I mean? So I think that they went a little bit more for function over form, but it doesn't really bother me all that much. After all, like I said, I wear these when I'm like on the trail or, doing things that are active, and they perform flawlessly. One of the other things is I've never ever used this sole before. This sole is a new one to me, and it's like a traction monster. It works really well. I'm familiar with the 100 lug and the V-bar and all that stuff, but this one here was something totally different, and it works really well for that intended purpose of using these off-road and kind of as your summer hiking shoes or whatever. I also like the fact that they're nice and low. These are the lowest boots that I own. Matter of fact, can you even call these boots at this point? Shouldn't they be a little bit taller? But whatever. This is sort of this fills that niche in my collection. Up next is the Russell Moccasin Zephyr. I did a video about these a month ago or so, and I wanted to see how they worked out at work. Now, I had a specific job at the time that worked out really well because I was in a warehouse where we didn't need steel toe, we didn't need all the safety crap that they normally put on your boots and whatever, and I was able to wear these without a problem. And actually in the beginning, it kind of felt like I was doing something wrong because these feel like slippers, and I was like, am I at work in slippers? But you get used to it pretty quickly. Now, one of the things about these, and the reason that I'm gonna be bringing these on a trip that I'm going on to Montana, is that they are water resistant while being completely leather. And that's one of the things that Russell Moccasin does that I guess no other company can really replicate. They have a patent on the way that they build their boots, and they're totally water resistant. I've walked through all kinds of water and nasty stuff and never had anything leak to the inside. So to me, these are a perfect adventure boot, which is why they're coming with me on that trip. The other thing is that being able to zip in and out of them in the back is great. I was a little bit worried about this in the beginning. I thought that maybe those teeth would start digging in, but the fact that it's fully gusseted all the way up means that those teeth don't come inside. They don't hurt the back of your foot. So sometimes that can really, you can see how that would be a bad thing, right? Like these brass tangs eventually digging into the back of your heel. Ugh. But no, these things have been awesome. I gotta tell you, I know that Russell Moccasins are expensive. If I remember correctly, these are somewhere around $750 or something like that, but they're worth it. And there's a reason that so many people who could buy whatever they want end up going with these. I can really see why. They feel like slippers, but they perform like hiking boots. I love them. They're great. Next up, we have Bordon. Now, Bordon handmade. These are, in a lot of ways, these sort of beat the Pacific Northwest boots at their own game in a lot of ways. They feel very similar, although they're not quite built to that same level. And I'm gonna give you a good example here. So coming a little later, spoiler alert, look at the heel on these whites, right? I mean, you can't compress that if you tried. It's really, really tough. These, you can compress, you know what I mean? So they're not really, and that's just the heel counter, but the whole thing is sort of that way. It's for the people who like maybe the look of a Pacific Northwest boot, but don't need all that crazy build. And let's face it, not many people do. This is a perfect option. They've done some really nice work here. Again, it's a little bit lighter duty, but that means that you can still have that same look as your PNW boots, but in something that's a little bit more user-friendly. And these are absolutely perfect for wearing casually. In my opinion, like these are some of the best. And I think that, Bordon just really did a beautiful job with these boots, and I love that color. I love the cap toe. They're gorgeous, and I wear them a lot just because, like I said, I like to kind of wear stuff that looks like what I wear at work. That's my style, and this is just a refined version of that. These are absolutely beautiful, and I don't know anybody who has a pair who doesn't love them. My buddy over at Bootlosophy, he has them, and it's like, yeah, they're great. Matter of fact, that's where I first saw them. These have been spectacular, so these have found a great place in my rotation. Now up next, because I just kind of gave it away, is this pair of whites Bounty Hunters. These have always been in the running. I think that I had these maybe like second last time, but they're still up there. Now the Bounty Hunter, if you go to the Whites website, you won't find the Bounty Hunter. And you may say, okay, well, where do those come from? They actually are a collaboration with Baker's. So Baker's Boots, another great brand. They worked with Whites to take, I believe, their smoke jumper and put it on the semi-dress last. So what you get is the build of the smoke jumper, but on a more sleek last, and I love that look. These are also in Horween horsehide, so it's a different type of leather, which I really like. Takes a little while to break in, but isn't that nice? These are also soft toe. There's no structure to that toe at all, so when you wear them, it basically feels like you're not wearing anything, but you have that combined soft toe feeling with the very, very, structured feel of a Whites. Whites is one of those companies, man, they've been around for so long, and I do kind of appreciate that they stay out of the mudslinging and BS, and they just kind of go about their day making their boots. I think that's pretty cool. They also do a lot of handwork on their stuff, and you could just see it. When I bought these, I bet they're probably a lot more expensive now because this was several years back. They were, I think, $600. That was the most money I'd ever spent. This was actually my first pair of Whites, but that was the most money I'd ever spent on a pair of boots to that point. And I luckily, it kind of happened to do it right. I wouldn't do anything different about this build right here. It was a custom deal where you could order whatever you wanted, everything from the eyelet color to the structure to the leather to the way it's made. And I love it. I wouldn't have done a thing differently. I still even love the double row stitch down. It gives it quite a lip, but I like that. I don't know. These are, again, they're also lined in goat skin, so it's like they could last forever. They did just a great job. I love these boots, and I don't ever see these not being in the top half of my collection. Now this is kind of unfair, but I've got to include my Knix Builder Pros because, again, these are the boots that started it all for me. I still do wear them. However, I've been wearing a lot of other boots to try at work. And so these have gotten a little bit of, they got some cobwebs on them just because I haven't worn them lately. And I actually really do think that I need to send these things out to get resold and stuff like that because they're pretty grody. But either way, there's a reason that these things are still the work boots that I have. They really are, they've broken in wonderfully. I originally did these back when you did a fit sheet with Knix. You'd call them up and somebody would answer. That somebody was Grant, and he would talk to you as you were wearing the try-on boots that they sent to you. All right, it's a little tight here. How does it feel there? Whatever. And then they developed this last, which I still order all my boots in. So anytime I get a Knix, I just go back to that same size and they come in perfectly. My Knix size is nowhere near my size isn't any other boot. So it's just like, all right, whatever. But as long as they fit, it doesn't matter. I got these when I was working on the railroad, and I was just miserable in the boots that I was in. I was like, forget it. I am spending the money and I'm getting something good, damn it, because I need to have that walking on trap rock and standing there and whatever. I needed something that would really work well in that uneven terrain, and these sure do. They do. They're great. Being the ones that started it all, being comfortable, being broken in, everything about them, they're great. I haven't worn them in a while, but I miss them. I'm gonna put them back into the rotation. Up next, we have another boot that I really haven't shown on this channel. I haven't done a review on or anything, and that is the Wesco Mister Lou. Now, this particular makeup right here is actually a Baker's, I think, exclusive, where they had done the Mister Lou in Horween Latigo, which is a just beautiful leather. Look at the way this has started to age. And I originally heard of the Mister Lou because of my friend Albert. He has several pairs of these things and loves them. They're sort of like his signature boot. And I was like, man, they do look good, we'll see. But I was really worried because, you know, I had those John Lofgrens, and I'm like, you know, if I can't fit into them, why am I gonna spend the $700 and wait 2 years, which I did. But you know, you gotta take some risks in life, and luckily they paid off. This leather is a lot more forgiving than that shinky horsehide that I had my Lofgrens in. So after a little while of forcing them on and you know, putting a little bit of water, that's one of the things that I'll do with my boots, is especially in the instep, when it gets really tight there because I have a high instep, what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of hot water and I'll soak a paper towel or a rag or something like that, and I'll just put it on there so that it soaks into that leather and it loosens it up. And then I'll go back and I'll condition it or whatever, but that allows that section to sort of relax. And after doing that a little while, you're actually able to kind of get a little bit more of a custom fit. And that's one of the issues with any laceless boot and me, is that the top part, it's too tight. And so I have to relax that section. But now that I can honestly say these are the most comfortable engineers that I own. They are my go-to. I think that one of the reasons that they are so great and that they're so legendary is, number one, that toe shape, which almost looks a bit cowboy-ish. And what I think they did with these, if I remember correctly, is that the Mister Lou is actually basically the Boss boot, but they use the MP toe on it. But the Mister Lou is a little bit more sleek, and I love that look. I also think that they reduced the shaft diameter here that goes around your leg. So these work really well if you have slimmer fit jeans, you know? And man, they're wonderful. I've been wearing the heck out of these things, if you can't tell. I mean, I only had them for a few months, but these are in regular rotation. And I had a whole, you know, totally planned on doing a review on them, but honest to God, I've just been wearing them and I haven't thought much else of it. So maybe I still will, we'll see. But if I had to grab a pair of boots, you know, and run out the door, these might be it. But of course, number one, I mean, you saw this coming, didn't you? The Kreosote nail shank. The reason that these are number one is multifaceted. Number one, the reason that these are always gonna be top dog in my rotation is because they were the most expensive boots that I had ever bought. $900 I paid for these right here. And it was like, when I saw these things on Instagram or wherever I saw them, I was like, I have to have them. Those are the toe on them, the overall look, the way it cuts in at that waist right there. They were just so drool worthy, and I have never felt that way about a pair of boots where I'm like, you know, birds are chirping, the angels came down from the heavens. It was like, I think I might be getting a little too into this or something, because holy moly, I'm in love with these boots. Placed the order, talked to Gabbard, he made them. They were delivered, and they're an interesting feel. I gotta say, the way that these boots feel is unlike any of the other ones that I showed you before. They have the strangest combination of structure and flexibility that I've ever experienced. This upper leather is actually quite flexible. There's not much to it, you know what I mean? It's nice and thin, you put it on and you don't notice it. That heel counter, and especially that backstay that he does right there, and this toe are like, they lock you in. And it almost reminds me of the way it feels when you lock into your skis when you're wearing ski boots. You know, you put that toe in and then you jam the heel down and now you're in it. So when you lock yourself into this boot, they feel like nothing else. They also are my most complimented boot that I own. Anytime I wear these, people have they have questions. Like they see them and they want to know, where do they come from? Who makes them? How can I get them? And I always say the same thing. I'm like, yeah, these are a special pair, and just there's nothing else out there quite like them. They look haunted. Look at them. These things look like a freaking witch or a warlock would wear them or something. I mean, like, they look evil, but they also look refined. They look like they're gonna beat the crap out of the rest of my boots, but I hope that they don't. And the fact that these are made by, one guy, one at a time, on mostly hand-powered equipment, I love that stuff, man. I just eat that up. And they have done, Gabbard has done such a wonderful job with these that they can't be I don't know how they could ever be dethroned unless another company comes out with another pair of boots that are as great as these and unique and interesting and have such a cool story behind them. Because to me, the story is just as much a part as the actual product itself. I don't see these ever being dethroned. They're just probably always gonna be my number one. And I don't know, man, they're amazing. So there you go, the Kreosote nail shank. Now, if you want a pair of nail shanks now, it's a way different story. I think his wait list is up to 3 years or something like that, and these cost about $2,000. So, inflation, man, it gets everybody, and I think that it's just, look, it's supply and demand. There's only one guy making them, and there's too many people who want to buy them. So you gotta wait, and you gotta pay, and people are happy to line up and get these, which is great. I'm happy to see a single maker doing that kind of thing. But yeah, you saw that coming. Come on. I mean, the Kreosote nail shank, of course, right? That's it. That's all I got. I do have a few more. Like I said, they are collaborations, but these are the ones that are not collabs and the ones that I wear the most often, and I absolutely love them. So that's it. That's the state of the collection. I want to thank my patrons. Without you guys, none of this is possible, especially the Loafer Slayer level and above. You guys are the best, and I hope to see you guys soon. But thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll catch you later.